Welcome to the Calm Cockpit Podcast, the show that helps pilots think clearly, stay calm, and perform at their best when it matters most. Each episode delivers practical strategies, real-world aviation wisdom, and mindset tools that help create confident pilots and safe flights. What if there was a tool that could help you stay focused under pressure, recover faster after a long flight, improve your sleep, and increase your resilience? And what if it was available to you 24 hours a day?
There is. It's your breath.
Breathing is one of the few systems in the body that runs automatically, but can also come under your conscious control. That means it's a practical tool pilots can use to influence alertness, manage stress, and improve performance.
And the research is pretty compelling. Regular breathing practices have been linked to improvements in physical health, psychological resilience, recovery, and overall well-being.
Today, we'll explain how breathing actually works, why it matters in the cockpit, and we'll teach you 3 simple techniques you can use to reset after a startle response, improve your heart rate variability, and regulate your nervous system.
So whether you're prepping for a check ride, flying a long cross-country, or just looking for another tool to sharpen your performance, stick around. The Calm Cockpit Podcast starts now.
Onyx 12 Mike Oscar, runway 27, clear for takeoff.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Geeta Brown, a midlife student pilot, yoga and meditation and music educator with over 30 years of experience in teaching high performers how to improve their lives without adding stress.
And I'm John Niehaus, corporate pilot and flight instructor.
This topic today, breathing practices, is one of my favorites. I could go on and on and on about it, but I want to know first, I feel like, John, you've done some breathing practices in your time as a pilot. Have you done them, and why? What was the impetus to start in them?
I have been breathing for 40 years. Almost.
Congratulations. Well done.
We're not there yet, but almost.
You're a natural.
Professional even.
In, out, all day long.
I have not necessarily dipped too far into a lot of those practices. I know that it has come with some of the different sort of mindfulness things that I have tried. Mm-hmm. And funny enough, and I know we'll get to this a little bit later, but I used to have a Fitbit, a watch Fitbit. On there, it had a whole bunch of different sort of stress relieving things. And one of them was a breathe in with the bubble, breathe out with the bubble. So I've done some of that, but that's about as far as my experience goes.
How was it with the Fitbit? I've never done one of those, like follow the little thing. Did it work, or was it like annoying to watch this little thing telling you to breathe?
I think I struggle the same as a lot of people do with meditation, where I started it and then the entire time I was just thinking about when it was going to be over. So it was more of a, I'm going to win this bubble game. And then all of a sudden 30 seconds go by and you're like, oh, is it done yet?
Yeah.
Which I don't think is the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish at that point. So I don't know.
We can definitely talk about that. Yeah, I think there's always that mythology that you have to be totally zen and in the moment and completely focused the whole time. And as we've said many times, it's more about bringing yourself back to the practice over and over again than it is about having any particular experience while you're doing it. It's normal for the mind to be distracted. It's part of the game. So we can definitely talk about that today. And I think that's where I wanted to do this episode, because when someone says something like that, oh, just take a deep breath, usually people are like super annoyed by that suggestion. It's not usually really helpful. Take a breath, take a breath. They usually say it to you when you're angry or heated, right? And it's like the last thing you want to hear. It's like telling someone calm down. You're like, I am righteously angry right now. I don't want to take a deep breath and be calmer because this anger is protecting me. So screw you and your breathing. Like, it's not going to happen. Yep. It's a real interesting thing that it's this process that, like you said, you've been doing it your whole life. It's under your unconscious control, if you will, and you can consciously control it. So we'll kind of dive into all of that. I think for me, I've been obsessed with it since I guess I was a junior in high school, because as a clarinetist, the breath is everything. You're not going to make sound without breathing into your clarinet. And so learning how to shape and direct the breath in a musical way was everything, right? And that was what I wanted my career to be. And then I had a car accident where I got sideswiped, and I had already I didn't have scoliosis, but it was kind of on the edge. And then of course, getting sideswiped, guess what? My spine didn't love that exactly. It was not a good time. And so my rib cage and everything got just misaligned. And it got to the point where taking a deep breath was super painful, which is not a good look for a high school clarinetist who is auditioning for conservatories. So that really set me on a path of when you're in pain, you feel every muscle that helps you breathing in a way that you don't when you're not in pain. And so it led me down a road of, chiropractors, and definitely I was already into meditation, even more of that. And it really meant that I had to kind of unpack the injury that I had and rebuild my breathing in a more healthy way. And ever since then, I've been this really works. All of a sudden, then I felt better in a lot of other measures too. And so I've just been studying it ever since. So like I said, I could talk about this for days. But for my pilot friends, dearest listeners, I kind of wanted to structure it in 3 different chunks for us. First of all, why it's important. If I could write the I'm safe checklist, I'd say, hey, there should be at least 1 ground session on your body and how it works so that you know how it functions so that you can take care of it better. It's just like studying the POH. So I want to cover a little bit about why it's important, and then breathing 101, just how it functionally works in your body. Because for most of my students, when they learn that, it can even change how you sit and move and breathe just in daily life. Not checking your aura ring for a breathing pattern, but just how you use your physical machine daily when you have that information. So that's part 1, will be why it's important and how it works. Then I wanted to give 3 really short practices where you're going to have a couple different experiences of some breathing practices that are all pretty easy. Take a couple of minutes to do just so you can have a sample platter of actually what it's like. And again, getting us out of that expectation that it has to feel a certain way and instead just kind of do it and observe the results later. And then I wanted to give my top recommendations in the 3rd segment for those resources that can help you if you want to do even a sprinkle of it in your day, or if you're you know what, I'd actually like to commit 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day to this. Give you my best resources that I would feel comfortable doing myself or sending my students to, instead of sending you off into internet land. Which, if you Google breathing practices, you'll find the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you'll find a lot of very untrained people telling you things that won't work for you. And then you'll think it's you, or that breathing practices don't work. And then it's an opportunity missed. So I wanted to kind of filter through some of those and give you my top recs. What do you think, John? Sound like a plan?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. So you're kind of like my student today. I like it. I like it. So the first thing is why should we even care about breathing practices? And when I'm talking breathing practices, I'm talking about at any moment in the day when you stop and you take conscious control of your breath, whether it's one single deep breath reset or whether you're using it to downshift. I'm talking about an intentional moment when you take management over your breath. So we've talked about it on this podcast a lot. I think I even did a Monday briefing on this. There is so much clinical evidence right now that breathing practices, when done as a daily routine, that it has a positive impact on your health, your blood pressure, your longevity measures, your physical capability, your ability of your muscles to use the strength that they have, and your psychological resilience. Everything improves when you learn how to manage your breath even better. Do I need to say that again for the cheap seats? Everything improves when you're breathing better. But why should pilots care about that? Of course, we all want to fly. We want to fly well, and we want to fly for as long as we can. So this is the simplest thing you can do that takes 5 to 10 minutes a day that will really tip the scales in your favor. So to me, it's just common sense, but common sense is not always so common. And I feel like if this were taught in school as a skill and a topic just like math or science, people would give it more credit, but it's often not. It's reserved for those moments like we said, take a deep breath, and that's not super helpful. So I want to kind of shift that conversation. The other reason I think pilots should care about this, it's really interesting because like you said, John, you've been doing it your whole life. You're an expert. You're a natural. Almost 40 years. Oh, you're not the new kid anymore. But that's the first thing you did when you were born. You went, right? You got out of the fluid and into the atmosphere and you took in a breath. In between, you've done a lot of breaths, and the last thing you do before you pass is you're going to exhale. This is fundamental, and it is run by your autonomic nervous system 24/7. It just goes. Thank God we don't have to think, breathe in, breathe out. oh, I forgot to breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. It just goes. But we can also bring it under our conscious control to a certain extent, right? We can manage it. And that means that it is really this bridge between the outer world and our inner state of how we respond to the outer world. So that means we can use it to help control our alertness. We can use it on the other end to help us downshift towards sleep. We can use it to help ourselves manage ourselves in emergency situations when we have a moment and we're out of just doing the actions on the checklist. And I think most importantly for pilots as well is improving like our baseline resiliency and health so that we have the mental and physical resources to draw upon in an emergency or a challenge. And I think all of that's a good thing. I know you just had a really long shift day, right? Wouldn't you want more alertness at the end of that?
It's always helpful. That's for sure.
It's always helpful. A couple other reasons why pilots should care about it is it can really, really influence our mental state. I've seen this in students again and again and again and again and again. Shifts in breathing patterns, some of which I'll teach you today, can actually really increase your alertness. You can change your breathing pattern and get like a rush of energy that is palpable, or you can use it to completely downshift the other way. And it is so powerful to be able to do that because most of us do life the opposite way. There's a stimulus and then we just respond. We don't think, we don't pause. There's action and then there's a reaction. And I don't know about you, but how many times I've reacted to a situation and then later gone, I wish I had handled that differently. I wish I had
never done that. No. No, not
Usually,
one.
for me, it's like I wish I would have spoken up and said something sooner, right? My breath literally gets stuck and I have a hard time self-advocating. Not so much anymore that I'm north of 50. I tend to speak up, but still can happen. And that ability to actually stop and to take a breath and say like, I need a little more oomph right now. I know which breathing pattern to do that. And then that in turn triggers my mind and then in turn triggers the action. This shallow, rapid breathing that happens for most humans, honestly, is one of the greatest detriments to health that I see and one of the greatest detriments I see in my students in their ability to focus and decrease anxiety. So most of us breathe right up under the collarbones, like really shallow and pretty quickly. And if you even just, as you're listening to this, if you just kind of picture yourself as a fly on the wall and you're just watching yourself breathe, most of us, it's kind of, I'll do the pattern here. You might have to turn up the volume to hear it, but it's like this. It's very shallow, very quick. And that's like the default breathing for most people that I observe. That type of breathing causes this excess in exhalation, which means it's basically reducing carbon dioxide, blah, blah, blah. We can get into the science in a minute. And it also decreases oxygen in the brain. When we are doing that sort of rapid, shallow breathing as our baseline for how we function, it means that your brain is not receiving adequate oxygen. And in that turn, the brain becomes hyper excited and it causes difficulty in focusing and it increases anxiety. So think of like a toddler who's tantruming. You have a little kid. Think of when he was like 3, even a little younger.
3? As if he doesn't still tantrum now.
I've been known to tantrum every now and then, like we're just losing our stuff. If you pay attention to that breathing pattern, they're usually going, and he said, and then she did this, and then, that way that they talk. This is how we do it as adults. We just mask it. We do it all the time. This very shallow, quick breathing. And then we say, oh, I can't focus, or, oh, I have anxiety. No, you don't. You just have a breathing pattern that's not serving you. And if you switch the breathing pattern, poof, the psychological ramifications chill way out. And this is the greatest thing that I think why pilots should know about this is because if we can shift your baseline for how you breathe every day, you get a huge bonus in resiliency. That means that focus and that anxiety, instead of being, in a troublesome number 7 out of 10, maybe you're at a 2 or a 3, where it's like, oh, my breathing pattern is actually pretty supportive of my life. So then when a stressor comes in and the breath really goes because you're under high stress, you have a much greater window of tolerance. Does that make sense so far?
It does. And
okay.
It's interesting
Good.
because it's a reoccurring theme that we've talked about on multiple episodes. I mean, How many times has box breathing come up? How many times has the different sort of relaxation techniques that have covered under stress and under, check ride anxiety and performance anxiety? So it makes sense to take something like this and even expand it even further.
Thank you for that validation. I appreciate that.
Well, it's selfish because this just means that anybody who hasn't listened to those episodes, you really should. They're all kind of linked together.
Yes, we all operate as a functioning, harmonious system. I think the last reason I'll give why I think pilots should absolutely care about the breath is that it can be done in this sort of twofold way I've mentioned. One, you can do it as a standalone practice, 5 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the morning of increasing that sort of baseline overall health and resiliency of the nervous system. But it also can be used as that back pocket tool. And in the moment, I need one deep breath to reset. And if you have that, it gives you that moment to think. It gives a moment for your nervous system to move back towards a more balanced state. And it can just be integrated into everyday life. It doesn't always have to be a big project. It can just be a thing that you do. And I'll give some examples of that towards the end with the practices. But I just feel like this is something that everyone should know. So let's dive into how it actually works. I'm not going to do the deepest dive in the world in this. If you take yoga with me on a regular basis, I sprinkle a lot of this information. Typically, I'll teach like an 8 to 12 week class. That's actually where we're doing stuff the whole time. And I just sprinkle these facts in. And people are always so intrigued to learn about this. And I can tell you what one high schooler said to me recently. He's 15. This was his first ever yoga class with me. And he came in, he took the class. I didn't know anything about him. He was in like a class of 20 kids. And at the end, he came up to me and he was like, "Geeta, what was that?" He's like, I'm like, what? I'm not sure what you mean. Like, it was yoga. What are you talking about, man? Tell me something. He's like, okay. He said, I have horrible asthma, which is why they took me out of the spin class and they told me to go take yoga. He said, I can't do anything without it provoking an asthma attack. I end up like in the hospital sometimes with this. He said, I took that whole class. He said, not only could I do it, number one, he said, but I actually took a full, complete, deep breath. I've never felt that. That was amazing. Like, his mind was blown that his body could physically do this. So I want to say to anyone out there listening who's like, this doesn't work for me, it doesn't really make any sense, or I have asthma, or I've tried it before and it just didn't work, it made me more anxious. All of that is totally normal. And I can guarantee you, you're not an outlier. Your body already knows how to breathe, and there's a way for you to improve that functioning even more. It's just you haven't found it yet if it hasn't worked. It's not that it won't work for you. I'm sorry, you're just not that special. You just haven't found the way in that's going to make it unlock for you for it to be like a superpower. So first thing to know about the breath. Are you a mouth breather or a nose breather, John?
I would say primarily through the nose.
Nice.
Because it drives me crazy when I have a cold.
Oh, yeah. Like, you notice that you can't do it.
Right. When I have to breathe through my mouth when I have a cold and I'm all stuffed up, it's just like the worst.
It is the worst, totally. Any ideas as to why a yoga teacher or a breath rehab specialist would say, hey, let's try to shift your breathing towards in and out through the nose all the time instead of the mouth?
No, because the majority of things that I have taken, it's in through the nose, out through the mouth. So that is contradictory to what I've been told by a lot of these other practices.
Isn't it interesting? So the great news about the breath is there's no right or wrong way to do it. I think all of this talk about the breathing and how it works and everything, it's like, hey, if you're intentionally trying to improve it, you're moving in the right direction, right? So I'll put that caveat over everything I'm saying here. Just do some stuff, observe the results, see what happens. Let me ask you this. What does it feel like when you have a cold and you breathe through your mouth a lot? Why does it bother you?
That is a really good question. It almost doesn't feel like I'm getting enough, which is weird because obviously your mouth is bigger than your nose.
Yeah.
I hope.
Right.
But it just doesn't feel as effective to me.
Yeah, that's really interesting you say that, because one of the functions of the nose, the first thing it does is it filters the air. I mean, we have nose hairs, however attractive or unattractive they may not be. That's part of what they do is they filter the air. They're literally trapping all these tiny particulate that's in the air so that's not going into our lungs. That's a good thing.
I believe those are called boogers. Sorry, folks.
Thank God for the boogies. Hey, mucus is a good thing. We like that because every booger is like stuff that would have been in your lungs otherwise, right? It trapped all that mucus is trapping all the pollen and the dust and all the ick. We like that. That's a good thing. But I think the other reason why you might feel like it's not as effective, that's so interesting to me that you say that, is that there's all these special little markers. I'm forgetting, there's an official name for them, but they go from the nasal cavity, where it attaches to the very fancy breathing tube in your throat, very official terms. It has almost these grooves in it. There's an official name for them that I'm forgetting. But what they do is they actually slow the air down as it enters into your lungs, which gives us more authority over the speed at which we're filling up our lungs versus the mouth, where it just goes right in a big gulp. When it goes in through the nose, it gets filtered and then slowed down and warmed up before it comes into the lungs, which all gives us so much more control over the speed and pace of the breath. And the speed and the pace is then what sets off that chain of reactions that then in turn influences our mind, our heart rate, our blood pressure. So the nose does a lot. It does a lot. So we inhale, oxygen comes in, it passes into those sacs that are in your lungs. And then from there, it goes into the bloodstream, and then bloodstream, good old hemoglobin delivers the oxygen to the cells of the brain and the body. Here's a thing that often gets missed, and I didn't see this anywhere in the aviation literature that I studied, which is that's functionally what's happening. However, there's a whole movement in the yoga world that says breath can be registered as shape change in the body. We tend to think of breath like coming in and filling up, like you take a breath in and you fill up and then you exhale and it goes out. But functionally, there's a muscle on the bottom of your ribs. It's called the diaphragm. Have you ever heard of that one?
The diaphragm?
Yeah, the diaphragm muscle. Okay. What do you know about the diaphragm muscle besides it's there? It's there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember that it's like opposite of what you think it is, where you think that you're forcing air in, but in reality, you're like relaxing, which is allowing the diaphragm to expand, bringing air into. So you're not forcing air in, you're just sort of allowing your body to relax, which then brings air in.
Oh my gosh, you're amazing. I think you should run this episode.
Is it true?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little hard to describe and without like the visual here with the podcast. But yes, functionally, breath as shape change in the body is, the diaphragm is like functionally pulling down-ish. I mean, it's hard to say down because it's 3D. It goes all the way through the abdomen. Think of it, it's what's separating your ribs from all of your other internal organs. It's like this wall. It goes all the way through. So does it just move down? Well, of course not. It moves down and out. It's 3D. It's a little more fluid than that, if you will. But yeah, basically it pulls down and essentially it's making the whole chest cavity and ribs flare open a little bit. Think of like wings of a bird opening up. And when that happens, there's actually a pressure differential. You create a vacuum in your lungs. And the atmosphere doesn't like that vacuum. It wants to equalize the pressure from the inside of the body and the outside of the body. So the atmosphere tries to regulate it by bringing oxygen into that vacuum that you just created in your lungs, which is wild to me.
Well, it's the same concept. The reason why I even know any of that, however true it may be, is because when you get into sort of high performance, high altitude aircraft, they also talk about how you switch from the passive oxygen into the compressed oxygen because the atmosphere at that point is so low that you need to force the oxygen in because your diaphragm can't expand.
Yes.
So to bring it back into aviation, you switch to the high pressure. So you've got the mask where it's literally when you are kind of giving the motion that you're breathing in, it opens it up and then shoots oxygen down into your lungs. Because if you have a pressure loss in the aircraft, you won't have the ability to pull that oxygen into your body.
Wow. That is so cool. So what do? You literally put the mask on and then you pretend like you're inhaling. You kind of expand.
It's like the slightest little breath in kind of opens up a valve and then it shoots the oxygen into you.
It forces it in.
It's kind of a weird feeling the first time you try it.
I bet. Wow, that is so stinking cool. This reminds me very similar to why I'm keying in on this for pilots a little bit as well right now, is very often people who say breathing practices don't work for me. It comes to exactly this reason, John. It's a posture issue. If you're sitting rounded and hunched, as I say that, he sits up and I'm suddenly sitting very tall and long.
Right.
Now all of a sudden everyone's like, sit up. But if we're hunched, if our shoulders are round and you're like limiting the excursion of that diaphragm muscle to do its job, you try to take a deep breath, you're functionally getting a much shallower breath. And very often for students, where we start working with improving tidal volume, that is being able to bring in more air and oxygen into the lungs, is doing things like posture work, and then also just simply lifting the arms up and overhead and bringing them down again. And in fact, a lot of the people that I work with that don't have conscious control of their breath because cerebral palsy or stroke or something like that, we work on the breath all the time through arm movements. Lifting the arms up creates more space. The atmosphere just brings more oxygen into the body. You don't have to think about it. Then you bring the arms down. It makes the space smaller in the lungs and the chest, and it forces the air out. So you can work your breathing practices. Think about how good it feels to work out. Even, I know, John, you love to run. That's working it. The pumping of the arms is naturally giving that action to like intake more and then squeeze it out without you even thinking about it. So many of the things we love to do physically, chopping wood. Anyone out there chop wood? That's another action. Every time I think of Serena Williams, who like would scream every time she'd hit the ball. But that's, as a yogi, it makes so much sense because you're making the space smaller in the chest, forcing the air out. That's why tennis players, when they hit, because they're squeezing that breath out. On the inhale, they're making space on the backstroke. Like, it's just how the body functions. Make more space, more breath. Make less space, less breath. Pilots, this is important. If you have wretched posture and you don't ever exercise, think of what that's going to do to your lungs by the time you're 80. And that's when you'll run into problems and won't be able to fly when you're 80. And I want you to fly over my house in your Cub when you're 80 and be like, I have lots of breath. So last little point, and then we'll get to some practices. That's functionally how it works. You could think of breath as shape change in the body. You could think of it as an atmospheric regulation. You can think of it as, you want to make a lot of space for those lung sacs to fill up with breath. And then we can also think about how it works is that it's under our autonomic functioning, as we've said, and under our conscious control, which we'll get into with the practices. I think we should practice a little bit because too much theory just intoxicates the mind, and I think doing it is better. So I'm going to give you your choice. What should we do first? Should we do the physiological sigh first, or should we do the heart rate variability one first?
It's funny because this is exactly one of the things I was going to mention. I have been told that I sigh a lot, especially in the airplane. Now, half the time it's because after a long day and I'm tired or whatever, but multiple people have come up to me and been like, that's a big sigh.
Really?
I don't know if there's something subconscious that I'm doing that is causing that, or if that's just a coping technique. I don't know. So let's go with the sigh and see what happens.
Love it. I love it. I have a Doberman Pinscher, and he sighs at me whenever he's not getting what he wants. It's very emphatic. He'll stare at me and I'll just say, nope. And he goes, and he walks away. But this is a little different than that. John, I think your body is onto something with that sigh. Okay, so we naturally do a physiological sigh when we get a buildup of carbon dioxide in the brain. And we usually get that, sometimes it happens with like claustrophobia or like a panic attack. Anytime like we kind of are in that stuck mode of that fight, flight, fright, freeze, or flee mode, right? We freeze like that and we get that buildup of carbon dioxide. The brain will trigger this sigh, but it can also happen after you've been really, really focused and concentrated on something for a couple of minutes. And the body kind of catches itself because it's going, we have too much carbon dioxide. We need a deep breath here. Will you please do this? And it triggers this sigh. The sigh sounds exactly like this. It's just like a big inhale. I'll try to do it audibly here. Big, huge inhale. And then there's another little inhale. And then it just goes out really quick. So it's usually a big inhale, a second little, I call it a sip of breath, and then right away, a big whooshing breath out. It happens naturally. My mom does it all the time. She does Sudoku, and I'll watch her, and she'll be like doing Sudoku, and like she's getting it, right? She's finishing it, and she'll put her pencil down, and her body goes, I'm like, she just did a physiological sigh. Back to those kids having a tantrum. If you've ever watched a little kid have a tantrum, usually after they're done crying, they'll do they do that kind of thing. Like, it's natural. We all do it. And I would suspect, John, maybe it's happening for you because you've been focused for a little while and your body is kind of doing that kind of thing. You have to pay attention next time you catch yourself doing it. See what you were doing in the minute or two before. So it's really super simple to do. I like to do it all in my nose and out through my nose, but that's my yoga bias showing. Most people teach this in through the nose and out through the mouth. So you can just do it along with me and see how it feels. You only need 1 to 3 of these to kind of get the benefits from it. So, and I'll tell you where you might use it as a pilot. All it is, it's a big inhale, little inhale, and then a sigh. And you just do an inhale, little inhale, sigh it out. And then you can do one more, and whatever pace you like. A breath in, another one, and out. And that's all there is to it. Easy, right? This is a really good one. Anytime there's been a startle response, or you need like a quick reset. For me, student pilot, right? Like ATC says something to me, I repeat it back, and then suddenly I realize I have to configure for landing. It's all happening kind of fast, but I do have a moment to kind of, okay, like I'm on final, I'm established, like I'm good, but I can kind of feel my brain starting to, I have time there to just go, and then go on with my day. It's really helpful because it's getting rid of that buildup of carbon dioxide in the brain. So it's improving that sort of equilibrium of the oxygen and carbon dioxide ratio, which is crucial for us to feel psychologically balanced and to feel more stable mentally and emotionally. Usually 1 to 3 of those is all you need. It's a back pocket tool. And again, John, I think most people do it naturally, but that's why I love it, because you can actually choose to do it anytime you want to, where you're noticing, wow, that super stressed me out, whatever happened, but I have a minute here. So let me do a physiological sigh and just let it reset. I like that one. This next one we'll do this one maybe for like 3 minutes. This is a little longer, but I think this one is great for pilots. Have you ever heard of heart rate variability?
Yes.
Okay. What do you know? Talk to me.
I know it's confusing because
I know it's confusing. Good place to start.
I just got a new fitness tracker like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be like AI driven. It's interesting because it tells you you're dying. And one of the things that it measures in terms of your cardiac health is the HRV, the heart rate variability. Mm-hmm. And then also, and there's a unit for it, but I don't really know or remember what it is. And it's stress. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because the way it talks is the heart rate variability going up is good, even though it doesn't sound good.
Right.
Obviously, the stress going down is good. Yes. And so like whenever you see one go up, you see the other one go down. So you can see kind of the correlation on how those are put together, even though they're measured separately.
Right.
That's about all I know. I know that it's very interesting to watch because there are times where, I'll climb into a difficult day in the morning, climb into the airplane, and it's so sensitive. You can literally see hour by hour as it goes down, and then I get done and it goes back up again.
Very interesting. Yeah. I think all this data that we're all collecting about ourselves is fascinating because we can actually have data points that correlate then with subjectively how we feel and maybe make some connections there about like the importance of all of this stuff. Because 10 years ago, no one was talking about this. I mean, we were in yoga classes, but that's, relatively closed space. So yeah, we now all have access. Like I have an Apple Watch and it will give me that information over time. I do think that in order to accurately use a smart device like that, give it a good 6 months. You need a lot of data for this to be accurate. So basically what it is, it's a measure of the natural variation in time between your heartbeats. We all know the heart goes lub-dub, lub-dub, lub-dub all day long. It does its work for us. It's a beautiful thing. And it's really heart rate variability is then an indicator of how well your nervous system and how well your body can adapt to stress and changing demands. So it's kind of like a window into your body's recovery and resilience meter, if you will. It shows how effectively, like you were saying, your body is going to shift from that high performance mode, like getting ready for a long duty day, and then recovery mode. You want a body that is resilient. And I think we had Dr. Adrienne Adler-Neal on, and she talked about for her, like holistic well-being is about being resilient. It's not about being chill and being zen. It's about being resilient, being able to go into high performance, high drive mode when you want, but then when you're done, being able to let yourself shift into recovery mode without needing alcohol, food, or numbing out on your phone to do it. So heart rate variability is like this measure that shows us that we have better adaptability, more resilience, and lower stress levels. So we want a higher heart rate variability because it's showing that your heart is basically resilient and flexible and can do like high demand work, but then can also downshift, and that you're able to be, I think of it like a stretchy rubber band, or in yoga, we talk about being like bamboo, strong but flexible. So we want that higher heart rate variability. So what controls that? Your autonomic nervous system, which we started talking about. That's what turned on when John was born and he went, that autonomic nervous system starts driving the breath, it's been driving the heartbeat when before you're born, but it's regulated then by your sympathetic nervous system, which is that fight or flight nervous system that turns on when we're under action mode or stress. The parasympathetic nervous system, we call that like the rest and digest. That's the aspect of the nervous system that slows the heart rate, promotes recovery, relaxation, digestion. So heart rate variability is heavily influenced by the balance between that sympathetic drive, where action mode, and the parasympathetic drive, the resting mode. The breathing practice we're going to do works on the parasympathetic nervous system, which for most people, we need to shift towards a little more ease, a little more relaxation, slowness in the heart rate, a little lower blood pressure. So this heart rate variability exercise we're going to do then is a breathing pattern that's basically equal. It's equal in and equal out. And there's no pauses in between the breaths. If you just think about the concept of that from everything we've talked about today, equal inhale, equal exhale, that triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. This person is safe. Everything is fine. There's no changes. In turn, that tells the heart that it can beat at a nice, regular, chill pace. Then subjectively, we feel calmer, usually. Subjectively, we feel more rested and ready to take on the next thing. And then over time, that leads the heart to be more resilient because it knows how to work hard and how to slow down. One small caveat before we do this exercise is that this is the limit of teaching this on a podcast is because sometimes a student will come into me. I would say 95% of the students I've taught need a little more ease. Right? They need to slow down, need to learn how to do that balancing act of downshifting in their life. Every now and then, though, I have students that I would not do this with because the student is sluggish. They're depressed. They're not moving in their life. They're not making decisions. And the last thing we need to do is something that's even more relaxing and slow and down. For them, I might do something completely different that I'm not teaching in this episode, which is taking a rapid inhale and doing much more vigorous breathing to supercharge and energize the system and really hyper-oxygenate it. I'm not teaching that on a podcast because I don't feel like that is advisable unless I'm sitting in front of the person and I can monitor them, because it can lead you to literally black out and pass out. And if you're already sympathetically driven and high-wired pilot, most of y'all don't need that, honestly. Most people need to take it down a notch, because taking it down a notch brings it into balance. So we're going to do this basically heart rate variability exercise and breathing. It's called coherent breathing. They've given everything names these days, which I find hilarious because as a yogi, we have different names for these, but call it coherent breathing, which basically means we're taking maybe 5 or 6 breaths a minute. We don't have to be that granular, but we're just going to do a regular inhale and an equal exhale. For the practice itself, we'll take maybe 2-3 minutes to do it. Keep in mind, you can breathe through the nose. You can breathe out of the nose. You can breathe in through the mouth, out of the mouth. It does not matter. Breathe how your body will breathe today. If you can do in and out of the nose, that's very nice. But if it's not available to you, it doesn't matter. Just breathe. Anything that works for you is perfect. If at any point when we're doing this, that the pace I'm giving does not work for you, just follow a pace that you find easeful. That's it. If you feel lightheaded, dizzy, then just do a sigh out like this. And just kind of sit for a minute and let that dissipate, and then come back into the practice when you're ready. Your breath is unique to you. If you were all sitting here in front of me today, I'd be able to read the room and adjust it for you, but I can't. And I totally trust you to do that because you've been breathing your whole life and you know what you need. So at any point, if you need to shift the timing on it, please feel free to do that. And no high set of expectations. You're just simply doing it as an exercise and an experiment. So we're not even looking for a mental state to happen. We're not looking for relaxation. We're just simply practicing taking conscious management of our breath. That's the only thing we're doing, is practicing that management of the breath. That's it. If you've done that, check, success, gold star. So
Right.
let's take a moment. Don't we love that kind of standard? All you have to do is do it and you get an A. It's like an easy A. So let's begin. Let's just align the posture, though, to make sure that we have enough space for that oxygen to come in. If you're driving, you can totally do this too. Just please maintain your awareness on the road because sometimes awareness can get a little fuzzy when you do this. So be mindful there. But let your feet find the floor. Get your feet evenly established so that they're underneath the knees. Or you can stand to do this, or you can even lay down. Just get your feet and your knees aligned. And then from there, let your hips align. Make sure that you're even on the sits bones, or if you're standing, that you're aligned on the feet. And then from there, just trace from the base of the spine and go up the vertebrae one by one, and just feel like as you're just tracing your awareness up your back, that you're just aligning your spine as you go. You're almost like resetting everything, finding a little space all the way up the spine, all the way even through the neck to where the spine connects between the ears. Let the shoulders release. Find a place for your hands to rest where they just feel comfortable. Let the jaw release. And the top of the head can raise up slightly, almost like there's a little thread pulling the top of the head taller. And in all that space, you can kind of let everything relax. And then from there, we'll just slowly begin. And remember that you can use the sound of my voice as a guide, but at any moment, you can also switch to your own breathing pattern, finding an equal balanced inhale and exhale. So we'll begin just breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and out. Breathing in breathing out. In out. And continue in and out. In, out. In, out. In, out. In, out. In and out. Continuing one more cycle in and out. In, out. In, and out. In, and out. And then to conclude, simply taking a relaxed inhale and exhale at whatever pace feels nice. You can feel free to exhale through the mouth as a signal that you've ended the practice. I enjoy that one because I feel like when I'm doing it, I just focus on I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out. And sometimes I'll count in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gives my brain something to focus on. But I like that there's no, again, high set of expectations, knowing that by doing this, you're training your sympathetic nervous system how to control your heart with more resiliency. That's the benefit right there. There's no need to be on a Zen cloud of the most accomplished pilot and focused pilot ever. It's like body-mind training. There's times for me when I am more anxiety driven, where this helps me to feel more focused and calm, actually more alert, right? If I'm really scattered, this brings me to a place where I can focus and make decisions. When I'm like, you just had a really long duty day, when you're like running on just like grit and I do this, yeah, I'll be like, boo, system shut down. Like, which is why in yoga, we always say like breathing practices are inherently balancing. You will get from them exactly what you need, because when you move the body towards homeostasis, the body knows what to do with that information and will give you that feedback. So whatever you experience then is perfect. It's information for you to use. I like to pair this practice because it is so directly related to heart rate variability and bringing that autonomic nervous system under your conscious control. I like to pair it with other things. I do this one after I work out, particularly after I work out at the gym. So I lift weights 3 days a week. Usually hasn't been 3 days a week lately, if I'm honest. But yeah, after I lift, this is a great one to do because my body has just worked really hard and my heart has been pumping and going. Do this for 5 minutes, even 3 minutes. Just sit on a bench at the gym, do some breathing. It's bringing all of that work I did back into balance and teaching my heart, you worked really hard. Now slow down and bring back into balance. And I feel like then I leave the gym with even more energy. So pairing it after a workout is golden. I also will do it before meditation in the morning. I can't meditate without doing breathing practices before. My brain is like, if I do some breathing practices, then I can concentrate very well. Let's do one more. You know what? I'm going to give the resources really quick, and then we'll do like the last breathing practice at the end, like at the end of the episode. We'll send everyone off on a cloud of relaxing breathing. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Cool. Okay. I want to go over resources a little bit because this is kind of the stumbling block for a lot of people. Like you said, you used was it an Aura watch or?
That was my Fitbit.
Oh, your Fitbit with the like circles and whatever. People will do that like here or there, but then it's like there's no traction to that or whatever. And like most things, you can lift weights once a month, but you're not going to get a lot of benefit. Whereas if you work out regularly for 10 years, you get a tremendous benefit. Breathing practices are the same way. You get out of them whatever you put in. So if you're someone who is finding that breathing practices are hard for you, or they provoke anxiety or a stress reaction, or you just feel like they're just not working for me, something is off here, I would really recommend this series I'm going to link below by the University College London Hospitals. So their national service did these amazing series of videos. Primarily, they were focused on retraining your breathing after COVID, or if you have asthma or any breathlessness period. Like when I had COVID, my breathing pattern totally reversed. So instead of that, my belly was actually going in on the inhale and it was pushing out on the exhale. And it's very common that happens with people with viruses or long COVID that switches your breathing pattern. It can happen after a physical trauma, or I see it a lot in my students with surgery. They come out and their breathing is literally reversed. And that makes you feel anxious because you're literally like sucking the belly in while you're trying to bring oxygen in, and you're making the space smaller while you're trying to breathe in, and it throws your whole nervous system for a loop. And they've done a lot of research on that with long COVID. So thanks to the University College London Hospitals, they have a whole series on this. It's fantastic. I've watched the videos. I've done it along with it. It really shows you if you're breathing in a natural pattern or if your breath pattern is maybe off of how it functioned when you were born, and who knows why, doesn't matter, but it shows you how to get back into just a regular natural breathing pattern. Highly recommend everyone tries it. Just as a diagnostic, am I actually breathing the way I was designed, or have I gotten into a weird pattern here? Can be really hard to tell that. I think they did a really good job. I'll link those YouTube videos, and they're really short. They're like 5 or 10 minutes each. If you're someone who's looking for, like, you want that magical app that will just give you a 5-minute practice to do, because I love those. I'm like, just tell me what to do. I don't want to have to think about something else. I would check out
Did you say
Insight Timer.
hack?
What? I did. I got a hack. Yay! John is so happy right now. Yes, check out Insight Timer. It's so good. If you even go to Insight Timer online, like on the web interface, they have a bunch of, oh my gosh, just type in breathing. You will find everything. You will find 5-minute ones. You'll find really dippy, airy-fairy ones with like the music and the things, much more clinical ones that are very cut and dry. They have so many. The majority of them are free. I encourage you experiment, find ones that you like. They have ones for concentration, relaxation, the energizing ones I was talking about. They will teach you those. I wouldn't do them without a teacher, but if you want to, you can. So check out Insight Timer. That would be the app that I tell people, go to that. They really vet their teachers. They do a great job. I have another recommend, which is Yoga with Adrienne. She does videos on YouTube. She's like the YouTube yoga goddess. And I really have to say, as a yoga teacher, I admire so much what she has done for yoga and making it accessible. Because if you have internet access and you have a smartphone, you can just pull her up. She has a whole playlist for breathing that I will link, and they are fantastic. She has everything from yoga breathing ones all the way, to some of the interesting ones we yogis do to very simple moving and breathing ones where if you're finding your breath is really constricted and you actually want to try some physical yoga, she'll lead you through that. Her stuff is really, really good, and it's about as close to like traditional, classical, full yoga as you can get on YouTube without going to a live teacher. So Yoga with Adrienne, mwah, chef's kiss. It's beautiful, and she has a great vibe. I'll also link her nighttime yoga one. It saved my bacon so many times, that 10-minute downshift at night. I have one more recommend. John, have you ever heard of Wim Hof?
No, I have
really?
not.
Seriously?
No.
I feel like with all the stuff that's going in your feed lately, with all the wellness stuff, I can't believe Wim Hof hasn't like shown up. The Iceman, he hasn't shown up in your feed?
I'm guessing he's about to.
Okay. Seriously, yeah. Play this and then let your computer listen to it, and then it will feed you Wim Hof. So he is... it's like a whole movement. I have not personally done his method. I think it's a little aggressive. However, I do know students that I've had, and my husband has used his method. My husband is trained in the same style of yoga I am, and he thinks incredibly highly of him. He's got a whole movement. So his whole framework is, I'm forgetting, it's breathing, it's cold exposure, and mindset work. It's like the three things, and he's teaching all about what we're talking about today is that psychological and physical resiliency. He does a lot more on the almost like forced hyperventilation side of things. Again, for me as a yogi, it's a little aggressive, but I know a lot of people who've tried it, and they're especially folks who have ADD or ADHD. They're like, this meets me where I'm at and it works. So I would check out Wim Hof. He has books, The Way of the Iceman. He has a whole movement. He has teachers that he's trained. It's very interesting. I would check that out. Just be mindful as you're doing it to not go too far too fast. That's my
Sounds
yoga
like a
mom.
Rammstein song.
Sounds like a what?
the German rock band Rammstein.
Rammstein.
He sounds like a Rammstein song.
Wim Hof, The Way of the Iceman. Do you have any recommends for people? Any apps or anything you've used? I know you don't do a lot of this, but maybe you got something hanging there.
I mean, my answer to everything is the Calm app, frankly.
Oh, yes.
And
I forgot about
I can
Calm
almost
app.
guarantee that there's breathing stuff on there that I haven't explored.
Totally. Yeah, I used one of their nighttime ones a while ago because you recommended the Calm app, and I used their bedtime ones, and I'm forgetting his name, but he had a fabulous voice, very relaxing. I think he even had an English accent, so it just, for me, it was so posh, but he did regulated, it was a paced breathing, very similar to the one we're going to do right now. Yeah, the Calm app is really, really good.
And the only thing I would recommend for those of us that work for sort of larger companies, a lot of times, my company included, they have a fitness allowance. So in our case, we get a couple $100s a year that we can allocate towards fitness equipment or apps or whatever. And in our case, and it may be worth checking out for whatever company you work for, those kinds of things actually qualify. So like my subscription to Calm is actually paid for by my company, which is great because I was using it anyways. If you need an excuse to finally pull the trigger on getting something like that, you might be able to get it for free. Who knows?
That is
so check
great.
with your company.
That is really cool. My health insurance covers my gym membership because
Nice.
it's considered preventative medicine, which is fantastic. So I think there's awakening that people are like, oh, this is good. This keeps you out of the hospital, or if you do have to go there, gives you a little more resiliency to handle it, because life gives us enough to handle. So why not learn how to kind of get your baseline feeling a little bit better so that life just gets easier. So if I had to kind of summarize all of this before we take it out with a nice triangle breath thing, I would say, pilots, we should care about this because your body, your mind it's your operating system. It's a whole system that works together, and learning how it functions gives you more choices about how you use it so that you're no longer just reacting to life, but you're proactively choosing how you want to respond, how you want to feel, and how you handle the invariable stressors that are going to come up. It's only going to lead to good things. And even if you don't have a great experience, you will learn something that will help you turn that into really good things for you. I believe that happiness and health are your birthright. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that each one of you has a little password to finding a breath practice that will work for you to help you just feel better, have more peace, have more ease. And that as a side effect, we get safe pilots, safe flights, and awesome operating missions that go really well and bring a lot of joy to the world. So why not? Breathe.
It's worth a shot.
Worth a shot. Exactly. Like, they got nothing to lose. So let's end with this triangle breath. This is one that I use when I need to really, really downshift. And sorry, John, you're doing it at the end of a long duty day. So we're going to really bring it on down.
I'll be right to sleep. Let's do it.
So I think I like this one because it is a little more visual. So if you could picture in your mind a triangle, is it an equilateral triangle? Is that the one that's equal on all sides? Wow.
Yes.
Yay! I remembered some high school geometry. So it's an equilateral triangle. I'm very visual, so I like this one. And sometimes I will even draw a triangle while I do this. If you're that kind of person, because I'm visual and kinesthetic, I need to move. You don't have to draw it, but if you want to, you can. So the first line of the triangle going up is the inhale, and the line going down and then across is the exhale. And that's it. Once we get a little into it, I'll add a pause at the top. And then I'll add a pause after the exhale. And it's just a visual. So as you're doing it, it helps if your eyes are closed or you can just look at the floor. You're literally visually just seeing a triangle either being drawn. Some of my students imagine a triangle sort of that's already there and it fills up on one side, then it fills on the other. It's like an outline that gets filled. You visualize it however you want, however it works for you. Some students make it colors. They pick a healing color, green, gold, white, purple, to make it really visual. Other people, like I said, physically draw it because the physical act of drawing it slows them down and gives them something to focus on. So it can be mental or physical drawing. I usually do it mental when I'm in bed, physically when I'm in a meeting and I'm pretending I'm listening to the Zoom call, I'm doing triangle breathing. No, I never do that. Okay. So we'll do this triangle breath. So same caveats as before. Make sure that your feet are well established. Make sure your knees are over the ankles if you're seated. Make sure your hips are evenly aligned. So find the sits bones and make sure you're not twisted on one side. You can even rock back and forth a little bit. Can move the shoulders up and back, make a little space. Let the spine be nice and long. The shoulders can release down. The hands can release and the top of the head can raise. Let the belly soften, the fingers soften, and know that this triangle breath is here to help support your nervous system and just to downshift from all the busyness of your life. Just bringing things back into balance. There's no high set of expectations. You can stop and start at any time. And my pace is just a guidance, that's all. You can find your own pace even as I guide the exercise. So picture in your mind's eye either a blank canvas or an outline of a triangle, whichever you prefer. And bring your mind's eye to that lower left corner. And as you inhale, a line is created up to the top of the triangle. And as you exhale, the opposite line goes down and continues across back to the starting point. Inhaling up, exhaling down and across. Inhaling up when you're ready, exhaling down and across. Nice full breath in, relaxing on the inhale. Softening and relaxing on the exhale. And if you need to, you can draw the abdomen in a little more to get that full exhale to fill all the way to the side. Inhale fills from the bottom to the top. Exhale, releasing down, across, maybe drawing the abdomen a little bit to squeeze out the last of the breath before inhaling up. Exhaling down and across. Inhale up. Now pause at the top for just a micro moment and then exhale down, across, and pause. Inhale up. Pause. Exhaling down, across, and pause. Inhaling up. Pause. Exhaling down, across, resting in the pause. Inhaling up. Exhale down, across, pause. One more triangle, inhaling up. Pause. Exhale down, across, and pause. Release the conscious control of the breath and simply sit quietly for a moment in the space you created. Simply resting quietly here for a moment. And then slowly just bring yourself back. You can wiggle the fingers and toes, legs and arms. Maybe take a sharper, deeper inhale and a quick exhale. Kind of bring some energy back in. Do that again. Full, quick inhale. Exhale. And then one more nice, energetic inhale. And a little exhale. Bring that oxygen back. Come back into your day. And that is the triangle breath with some pauses there. Another opportunity for you to practice. So my advice to you pilots is keep experimenting. See what breathing practice is going to work for you. Know that no matter all this complicated stuff I talk about, at the end of the day, all of these really just get you focusing and paying attention to your breath and give you an opportunity to experiment and see what results you get and how you can use them to shift your body and your mind towards what you find is useful. So it's less about which technique you do and more about the attention that you're paying to this vital force that you were given as a human being to inhale and exhale without your needing to worry about it. But then you also have this great opportunity to experiment with it and find ways to help it improve your life, your concentration, your focus. And from that point, you're making yourself so much more resilient, which naturally leads us to safer outcomes and just, I think, happier people, which I don't know about you, but I want to fly with happy, confident people. So I wish that for all of you. I think we'll close it here, leave you on a nice chill note. And if you don't feel chill from it, perfect. you still practiced. The job is done. John, any thoughts about that triangle breath before we sign off for the day?
It definitely, kind of like the other one, it did sort of downshift me a little bit, but it's interesting to hear you say that it just sort of does what your body needs, and that makes sense.
Yeah, it gives you what you need. And some days it doesn't always feel good, and that's perfect too. Follow the rule of thirds. Sometimes it'll feel great. Sometimes it'll feel kind of lousy. Sometimes it's just neutral. It's just practice. All of these will be improving your body and your mind. I recommend this triangle breath as like a downshift, like I said, at the end of a day, or in bed if you can't sleep. It's perfect. Or if you need that like 10-minute break, just do it for a couple of minutes of that 10-minute break. It's building that resiliency, whether you know it's happening or not. So keep putting money in that bank of your health and you will reap the benefits, I have no doubt. Where can our lovely people find us? Because we want to hear your comments about breathing. I want to hear where it's going.
Well, first off, thank you for sharing all that knowledge with us and
my
those
pleasure.
exercises.
My
and
pleasure.
I think what we're going to try to do is break some of those out and put those as bonus episodes. So
Cool.
as you're listening to this, and if you want to find yourself right to those points to try it again, we'll split those out and you should see those shortly.
Great.
Now, as far as everything else, you can find us on any of the streaming platforms. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you found us on one already. But if your best friend uses a different one, you can tell them that we're there too. And if you would love to share your feedback with us, you can contact us at calmcockpit@gmail.com. You can also find us on pretty much all of the major social media platforms at Calm Cockpit, sometimes at Calm Cockpit Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. If you've got thoughts, tips, suggestions, episode ideas, we'll take anything and everything. And of course, as always, we appreciate you listening.
We love hearing from you listeners. I also want to reiterate, if you go to calmcockpit.com, we have a separate bonus page where you can find all the bonus episodes, these breathing episodes, eye exercises. I think we have meditations on there, sleep relaxations, so many things to help you. If you're having an issue or a challenge, go there because there just might be a solution there for you. So that's the bonus page there. And you can find these bonus breathing practices there as well. Once we get them uploaded, be patient. We so appreciate you guys listening. We can't wait to see what you think of this. Drop us a line. I think we'll call that a wrap today. So until next time, fly smarter
and stress less.
Boston Tower 1 departure is Airbus 321. Traffic holding crossing runway 33 left 3 land.